Hello and welcome to Byju's IAS. Let's get started and look into the first article. The first article says Update Debate. This article here is speaking about WhatsApp's privacy policy. WhatsApp came out with an announcement. It said that it would be bringing a change with respect to its terms and conditions, privacy policy, and all those users who are not ready to accept these terms and conditions and new updated privacy policy will not be able to use WhatsApp or access WhatsApp after February 8th. This led to a lot of confusion, backlash, hue and cry from the users, and as a result of this backlash, WhatsApp came up with another announcement that it is planning to extend this particular timeline up until May 2021. Now, the important question is if there are people who had accepted these terms and conditions even before WhatsApp extended this particular timeline, what would happen to such users? This is a gray area that has been left unanswered by WhatsApp. But our major question is why did WhatsApp come up with such a notification? This is all for profit. Whenever there is an investment, that which is being made by a private company, it is mostly in the form of profit. When Facebook bought WhatsApp, it had bought it for nearly $19 billion. It had not put up any ads as well. It was not taking anything from WhatsApp as well. All that it was trying to do is present this WhatsApp as an application as a free tool. And after many years of investment made by Facebook, they are now planning to make sure that it extract profits from this WhatsApp. So what are they intending to? So WhatsApp will basically make sure that its location and phone number will be shared with Facebook and its units such as Instagram and the Facebook Messenger as well. So when such data of WhatsApp is given to Facebook, Instagram or the Facebook Messenger, they would be in a much better position to showcase the ads, and at the same time they would also be able to promote products and services as well. So the major idea here as to why WhatsApp is planning to take all the data with respect to location and phone number is to make sure that Facebook, which had bought, will generate profit from WhatsApp. This is the basic agenda with respect to Facebook and the WhatsApp. But what we have to understand is that Facebook has clarified that in case there are private messages delivered between two people, they are end-to-end encrypted. Facebook or WhatsApp does not have any idea about this particular message, nor do they have access to any of the private messages. Now, what we have to focus is on separate set of rules as defined by WhatsApp. What are these separate set of rules? This information of phone number, location will be shared with Facebook and Instagram and Messenger with respect to countries like India and other countries, but it is not the same when it comes to European countries. Now the question is, why has Facebook come out with separate rules, one for the European country, the other for countries like India? That is because there is lack of data protection law. When you look into India, we do not have a data protection law, and the data protection law currently is being looked into by the parliament, and it is also being referred to the parliamentary committee as well. What we have is a legislative vacuum when it comes to India. The same has also been exploited by WhatsApp in the present scenario. Since there is a lot of ambiguity, since there is a gray area when it comes to data protection in India, there are separate set of laws, one for Europe and the other for India and similar other countries as well. Now let's look into what is the law that Europe has. Europe has what is called as the General Data Protection Regulation. What is this law all about? This is a primary law which regulates how companies would be able to use the personal data of all the countries in Europe. Let's say for example, when it comes to European countries, they would not be able to extract this particular information, pass it on to Facebook, pass it on to Instagram or to the messenger of Facebook. So what has it said? The General Data Protection Regulation has clearly gone on to say that only essential information, that which is required for running of that application, has to be used when it comes to companies. Other information which are secretive in nature cannot be used. In case there is the secret sensitive information of an individual that is taken up, the terms and conditions are violated, then hefty penalties will also be introduced by the General Data Protection Regulation as mandated by the European Union. So because they have a law in Europe which which mandates that only essential information can be taken up, and in case there is violation or leaking of this particular information to a third party without the permission of that consent of that individual, in such a case there'll be hefty penalties imposed by the European Union. That is why there are separate set of laws when it comes to India and similar countries, and such laws are not applicable for the European countries which are part of European Union. That is the major issue in the present scenario. So what is the law that we have when it comes to India in the present scenario? There is one of the bills that is being referred and discussed in the parliament, but as of now what we have is section 43A of the IT Act 2000, which provides compensation for the failure to protect the data. What does this mean? Basically, we have one of the sections in the IT Act of 2000. Let's say, for example, there is one of the corporate houses or a company which is taking sensitive information. Let's say Facebook, which is owning WhatsApp in the present situation. If it violates any of the sensitive information, there is a provision that compensation has to be paid to the user whose data has been violated. But this is where the difference is. The difference is how this information is collected, for what this information is collected, and how this information is collected, and if there is a leak, the user may not be able to approach and convince to the court of law that it has happened through this very provision, because the user is not able to prove it, and because these companies are huge, and that is the primary reason compensation in most of the cases may not be applicable when it comes to this section as well as loss. These companies have huge amount of money. As a result, they would be in a much better position to hire the best lawyers and advocates in India, and they might not also pay compensation to these users as well. Also remember, since there are hefty penalties, that which is present in the General Data Protection Regulation, the same is not present in section 43A of the IT Act. What we have is a legislative vacuum or no law when it comes to India, and as a result, these companies are exploiting the abstractness, the gray area when it comes to the legislative vacuum. So what should be happening in the near future when it comes to India? As of now, the government of India has asked WhatsApp. It has started examining the controversy surrounding the WhatsApp news status. A bill is already present in the Parliament of India. This will also have to be fast tracked as well, and India, when it is coming out with the legislation in terms of data protection, it has to make sure that similar provisions are imported from General Data Protection Regulation, and the same is adapted to India as well. Why? Because privacy is one of the inherent features of the fundamental right. It is an aspect of Article 21 of the Indian Constitution, and privacy is something which is sensitive for that particular person. In case there is a leak, in case there are corporate houses which are making use of such information, it can get devastated to that particular individual as well. So privacy of a billion citizens is too important that is left to the practices of the whims and fancies of a commercial enterprise. So what we require is a strong law, stringent law, and fast tracking of law by the parliament in the present situation, so that such loopholes will not be exploited by all these corporate houses in the near future. It is this that we have to understand in reference to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article here is speaking about rare disease. What is this rare disease? There are number of diseases, let's say for example diabetes, or let's say cardiovascular issues or kidney issues. There are number of diseases which impact large number of people. It impacts usually lakhs and millions of people, but when it comes to certain diseases, it generally impacts only a few sections of the society. So that disease, which is also referred to as orphan disease, is any disease that affects a very small percentage within that particular population. But if you consider the cardiovascular disease or tuberculosis or diabetes, it impacts large section of the society, but there are few diseases which impact only a few people. That is what is called as rare disease. These rare diseases are mostly genetic in nature. We are not saying all, but we are only saying that most are genetic in nature, and this also stays for the entire lifetime of that particular person. Do remember, there is an estimated 6,000 to 8,000 rare diseases when it comes to the world, and the most common of all the rare diseases that which have been recorded in India are hemophilia, thalassemia, sickle cell anemia, primary immunodeficiency in children, which includes autoimmune disease, lysosomal storage disorders such as Pompe disease, Hirschsprung disease, Gaucher's disease, cystic fibrosis, hemangioma, and certain forms of muscular dystrophies as well. These are some of the rare diseases that which will impact an individual. Now, the most important factor when it comes to this particular rare disease is, do we have a definition for it? From the India's perspective, we do not have a definition when it comes to the national policy. However, what we also have to understand is there is no universally defined definition as well. But United States of America, for instance, has a particular definition. It goes on to say a rare disease is defined as a condition that affects fewer than 2 lakh people. In case it is impacting fewer than 2 lakh people, in such a scenario, what we will have is this particular idea of rare disease that immediately pictures in. Also remember, when it comes to the rare disease, it is complex in nature as well. Why is it complex? As we initially mentioned, it impacts very less number of people, and as a result, we do not have enough data about these diseases. Since we do not have data, the scientific community does not know how to explore this particular disease. There are no private individuals or organizations which invest on research and development, and as a result, we do not have the medicines as well, and as a result, we do not have doctors who can give this particular medicine. These are the challenges and complex nature of the rare disease, and as a result, most of these people who suffered from this particular disease will have to invest huge amount of money to recover. In fact, have to pay this particular money to a particular hospital to overcome this particular issue, or at least have the mitigating issue when it comes to this particular rare disease. And as a result, there were petitions that were filed in the Delhi High Court, and Delhi High Court had also requested the government of India to come up with a policy. So the government of India came up with what is called as the National Policy for the Treatment of 450 Rare Diseases back in January 2020. So what is this policy all about? Basically, the government of India went on to say that they will identify around 450 rare diseases. They will also come up with a registry. This particular registry will have the people whose names will be there and those who are suffering from a particular disease. The government will intend to come up with a definition for the rare disease. They will also take legal and other measures to combat the prices of the drugs, so on and so forth. And in case they have to provide money, they have identified these diseases into 3 types. What are these diseases? One, requiring one-time curative treatment. So in case there is a rare disease and this particular disease will require one-time treatment, such is identified as a separate category. So the minute the drug or this particular cure can be given in one single shot, such is what is called as one-time cure treatment. Then there are diseases that require long-time treatment, but the very cost is low as well. But there are some which requires long-term treatment with high cost. These are the 3 differentiation that which is made under the National Policy on the Treatment of 450 Rare Diseases. But only those people who have been the beneficiaries of Pradhana Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana, only such will be getting all these provisions was the national policy for the treatment of rare diseases. However, the central government is yet to notify how it will be implemented, what is the roadmap, who will be the executing agencies, and how it is planning to implement it is yet to be given out by the central government. It is this that we have to understand in reference to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says rise of shadow entrepreneurship. The first important question is to understand the meaning of shadow entrepreneurs. Who are these shadow entrepreneurs? Let's say, for example, there are people. These people start a legal business, legitimate business, that which is allowed by the government of India. They are not illegal in nature. So when they start off with a business which is about accommodating or providing certain goods and services, but they do not pay any taxes from the business perspective, or they are not kept a check by the government of a respective state or by the central government, such are called as entrepreneurs. So basically, they are the individuals or organizations which manage a particular business that sell a legitimate good and services, but they are not under the vigilant eyes of the government, or they do not register their businesses. In such a condition, they are the ones who do not pay any types of taxes, and they evade the taxes, and ultimately this could result in what is called as the shadow economy as well. Some of the examples to this shadow entrepreneurship will include unlicensed taxi cab services, roadside food stalls. All these people do not actually pay the taxes, but they have what is called as the shadow entrepreneurship. Now the important question is why there is an increase when it comes to shadow entrepreneurs. That is because of the increasing supply and demand shock. Let's say for example, there is an increase with respect to a good, or for example an increase with respect to the demand for a particular service. There are major players who provide goods and services. If they are not able to provide with respect to the particular demand, in such a scenario what we will have is the rise of shadow entrepreneurs, because the established players are not able to meet the demands in the market or in the economy. What we will have is the response in the form of shadow entrepreneurs. Apart from this, there is also a provision where they want to evade taxes as well. In case they have to establish a business, they have to get the licenses, they have to get the permission, they also have to pay periodic taxes as well. All this means the profits over a period of time will also drop for all these shadow entrepreneurs. So what do? They do not establish their businesses, they do not register with the government of the respective states or with the government of India in order to boost their profits. That is why there has also been increase when it comes to this particular area. So the two major reasons is one, the established players are not able to meet the demands with respect to the economy. So there is a dearth with respect to a good or service. This particular dearth will be taken care by what is called as the shadow entrepreneurs, and also because they want to increase their profit, they are coming up with such a move. Because of these shadow entrepreneurs, now what we will have is losses for the country. What are the major losses? Since they are not the business which are registered with the government of India, the government will not be able to have a genuine eye on them, and as a result there is complete loss of tax revenue for the government. The government would not be able to pump in the money for the welfare schemes and programs, and the other welfare schemes and programs is bound to suffer as a result of lacks of revenue. And at the same time, this will also lead to unfair competition as well. How unfair competition? There are two ways of looking at it. When it comes to the established private players, they would be providing what is called as the quality good, but this is might not be the same when it comes to the unestablished or the shadow entrepreneurs. There might be a provision where the quality that which is provided by the shadow entrepreneurs might not be able to meet the demands as well. Since they are not able to keep a check, since the government cannot have a check on these people, ultimately what they will also have is an unfair competition. How? Because their prices are comparatively cheaper when it comes to the established players, and as a result what we will have, one is the quality dearth when it comes to these people, and at the same time the prices are comparatively cheaper, so there is unfair competition which is towards all these shadow entrepreneurs. And at the same time, whenever the government is not able to keep a check on them, or there is excessive demand in the market, established players are not able to meet the demand, what we will have is some of the applications developed, and that is in the form of shady loans being provided by Chinese instant loan providers online. We did discuss 2 to 3 weeks back that there were applications that are being developed on the digital platforms. Let's say for example, they're making use of Instagram, they're making use of Facebook, and now banned TikTok as well. What do? In case people want money, there are digital applications that are developed which are able to provide instant money. But the problem is they have exorbitant rates that are being charged. In case people want about 10,000 or 20,000, there are applications which are being developed. These applications contact the people and they also provide the money as well. In case they are not able to repay back the premium money that they have taken, in such a case there have been instances of periodic torture as well. This has also led to suicides. Now what are the major issues right now? What happens? Because there is demand for the money, but if they have to go to the banks or to the established players. What they require is the documentary proofs and evidence. Since all this is not required by the digital application, what is happening is the government is not keeping a check. So there is torture in an indirect way to recover the money in a not so established practice, and ultimately there are suicides that are being committed by these people as well. This is one part of the story. Another part, let's say for example, they are genuinely poor, they want to empower themselves and eventually start off with a business. In case the government officials do identify there are such businesses that are being run, they might also be vulnerable to the corrupt government officials as well. Why? Because they may have to bribe the corrupt officials in order to sustain their businesses. In order to overcome all these issues, what we require is identification of all these shadow entrepreneurs. The minute they are identified, what they have to do is a benchmark of quality will have to be established, and in case they are violating these established principles of quality, they will also have to be penalized and put behind bars as well. So a jail term and penal provision will have to be enforced to such shadow entrepreneurs. And apart from this, there are different authorities which also looked into such fields as well. So there is diversification of the vigilant groups when it comes to the government. So what we require is one authority which will keep a check on such entrepreneurs so that they don't evade taxes as well. It is this that we have to understand in reference to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says the unraveling of liberal globalism. This article is speaking about the transition that United States of America has taken in terms of being a global economy, the one which promoted globalization, the one which was a pioneer when it comes to establishing rules-based order, to today what is called as the inward-looking economy. This inward-looking economy is primarily because of presidency of Donald Trump as well. Apart from this, it is also the economic advantages which has also put United States of America to look inward, says this article. What is that about economics? Let's say for example, after the First World War, in fact after the Second World War as well, we had the Cold War that was brewing between United States of America and Soviet Union. United States of America believed in what is called as the capitalistic model, and you had Soviet Union which believed in what is called a socialistic model. United States of America wanted to believe in what is called as the free will of the economy, that which promoted capitalistic model. Then there is socialistic model which believed in what is called a state control of the economic activities. There was a fear that was with United States of America where major countries of the Eastern European countries will fall into the lap of Soviet Union. They would eventually also follow what is called as the Soviet economic model as well. In order to pull them towards United States of America, what USA did was promoted number of economic policies. It also provided funding to the Western European countries as well. It also made sure that all these countries do not move towards the Soviet Union but instead look up to United States of America. Eventually, what we have is the disintegration of the Soviet Union in the 1991. After the disintegration, United States was the sole superpower as well. Because it was the sole superpower, it went about bringing massive changes when it comes to the global economy. What was it? It promoted what is called as the capitalistic economy. It also promoted what is called as the organizations like the World Trade Organization, World Bank as well. In case it feels that there is a problem, human rights violations or abuse of a particular regime in such a scenario, United States of America also went up to that particular country and replaced the kings, the hierarchies as well as the rulers in that particular country. Let's take the example of Iraq, or let's take the example of Libya, or let's take the example of Yugoslavia. In case United States of America is not happy with a particular regime, they are either replaced or there is a problem of twin powers that immediately steps up after this particular period of disintegration with the Soviet Union. But now comes the 2008. What exactly happens in 2008? We had the major economic crisis because United States of America and the Western European powers suffered because of the economic crisis. They are looking inwards right now, says this article. So it is not only the Trump administration, it is also the economic conditions that which is prevalent within the fold of United States of America. Yes, Trump did come up. He did increase the number of trade wars as well. He believed in the America First policy, but the very foundation to it was laid in 2008, and that was the economic crisis, says this article. Going forward, it is not only about economics, it is not only about the rules-based order, it is also about how United States of America will retake its global role, global power, and its administration when Joe Biden administration comes over is what we have to wait and watch, says this article. This is the gist of this article, but in case you want to go through it, please go through it because we have discussed this article for number of times on this very platform. Now let's look into the next article. This article here is speaking about the vaccine. This article has been explained in a day before yesterday's CNA. What is this article all about? The government of India has approved two vaccines that which should be administered to the people in India. While the people are getting administered with this particular vaccine, there might be a provision where side effects may pop in. There would also be a provision where people are also requesting for data as well. So what this article currently goes on to say that the government of India should provide enough evidences, will have to provide enough statistics so that people are convinced to take this particular vaccine, or else what we will have is the vaccine hesitancy, says this article. So going forward, what we have to do is dismiss all the rumor mongering and politically motivated theories, but instead the government, to prove that this is wrong, will have to provide with certain evidences, statistics and facts, says this article. The same has also been explained in our day before yesterday's CNA, so kindly look into it. Now let's look into the mains practice questions. India needs a strong data protection law than ever before to balance imperatives of protecting privacy and ensuring innovation. Discuss. Next question. Critically evaluate the role of shadow entrepreneurs in the economy and suggest corrective measures to enable better economic development. Please write all your answers on the comment section and also peer review as well. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.